Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. As you can see by the title, looking to discuss something pretty serious today. As you can see by the title, so it's Ole in versus Ole out. It's a big one. Now, I'm not saying that I think there's any chance that the board sack Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, because it's not. I know it's not going to happen because of the way that the board of Manchester United works. So I know for a fact that because we finished in the top four. Whenever we've done that in the past, since Alex Ferguson, we've always kept the manager. We've never sacked a manager who has finished top four, basically. So I think we need to evaluate Solskjaer fairly, and I think we need to separate the expectations of fans from the expectations of our board. Because this video is my opinion on whether or not Ole Gunnar Solskjaer should be the manager of Manchester United. This is not me saying that the board is going to sack him or they're not going to sack him, because I think we know that they're not. So let's go through the season then. So in terms of a league season, I'd say we finished second. We finished third the year before. So it's some form of progress. I mean, our points tally is not a lot more than it was. So I think it depends how much you want to read into that. But I definitely think that this year there were more teams there or thereabouts. I think there was more teams that we could have expected to take points off us. I think the main Ole out point, I would say, and I'm not saying I'm leaning one way or the other, I personally think the jury is still out. One of the main Ole out points is the big games. We've taken a very, very low amount of points against the big teams. I think we beat City in the league. I don't think we won against any of the other teams who finished in the top six. So we beat City once, and then we pretty much drew or lost the rest of the games against those teams. So this is not a good thing. However, I think it's important to bear a few things in mind. What I said earlier, I said the board will not sack a manager who finishes inside the top four, because that's what we're about now. We're a business, and it's about the bottom line. What's going to hurt the bottom line? So the reality of this situation is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has now done something that no one has done since Alex Ferguson. We've finished in the top four for 2 years in a row. Obviously, Jose Mourinho qualified for the Champions League 2 years in a row, but he actually finished fifth in his first year and won the Europa League. So I think it could have been a different story with him. However, this is different. We finished in the top four 2 years in a row, and there is a progression in the squad. There is improvement in the squad. So I would definitely say that, emotion from the other day aside, there's definitely some concerns about Solskjaer and the way that he manages the game, the way that he manages the players as well. I think what you can say as a positive in his favour is that he's a good man manager. He's got the players playing for him. Like, all the players, you can see they want to win. They don't down tools. They don't give up. But sometimes his team selection and the substitutes that he makes, or lack of substitutes that he makes, that's very questionable. You can't have, in my opinion, you can't continue to have Pogba, Fernandes and Van der Beek and essentially only play one of them because you want to shoehorn Fred and McTominay into the double pivot. And this is not to disrespect Fred or McTominay, but neither of them are actually Premier League winning quality midfielders, at least not in the starting 11. I think they both have valid places in the squad, but realistically we need a top class defensive midfielder, and that's not in Solskjaer's control. So I think we have to bear that in mind as well, that the signings are not entirely in his control. I think he made it quite clear he wanted Haaland last January, and he also wanted a centre-back last summer. So I think it's fair to say that the signings are not under his control. However, with the players that we do have, he does need to make some better uses of them. Like, I'm not saying that we underachieved. I think finishing second was about where we should be with the squad that we have. But you look at some of the individual games and some of the mistakes that we made at the back, and then that's just defensive organisation. So that's a coaching issue. And then his lack of ability to change it, like the Europa League. How can you go to 90 minutes of a game that you know full well is going into extra time. Like everyone knew from about the 70th minute onwards that we were going into extra time on that game because there was no effort from either team to score. Everything had dried up. So why would you then go into a game like that and not make any substitutions to try and change the way the game is going? Even after he saw Villareal make subs and then he saw them become more threatening because they were fresher, he still didn't make any subs. He waited until we were about to take penalties. So that on its own is a massive concern for me. Need I not point out the irony? Solskjaer was a substitute who would come on and score 3 or 4 goals off the bench. And yet he doesn't seem to realise the value of using them. So it's a tough question. I mean, my opinion, so I want to try and conclude this in as fair a way as possible. I don't think that we should sack Solskjaer. I don't think it's fair to when he's finished in the top 4 2 years in a row. He's done that and no other manager's done that. However, we need to see some changes in the way that he does things. Like, he needs to be backed in the transfer market if we're going to progress anyway. Because the reality is, if we're not backed and he makes a couple of signings that are square pegs in round holes, other teams that are just below us, like the Chelseas and the Leicesters and Liverpool are going to rebound, they're going to shoot past us. And Man City are just going to go from strength to strength. So we've got no chance if we don't make the right signings. We're going to end up outside the top 4, so Solskjaer will go. So firstly, he needs the right signings to come in, and that's not his responsibility necessarily. He's going to tell them the targets that he wants, whether the club will be able to deliver. United's transfer business has been very inconsistent the last few years, and we don't really know whether or not that's going to happen. But in conclusion, I would say we have to give him 1 more year because of what he's done. He's brought harmony to the squad, and he's finished in the Champions League 2 years in a row. He's got Pogba playing quite well. He's got Pogba playing as if he looks like he wants to play for United, which is a good thing. It can only be a good thing. But you've got to bring in a central defensive midfielder, and you've got to make subs. You can't have players like Donny van der Beek just sitting and rotting on the bench. You can't do it. You've got to make subs that will change a game. And I think in some ways it's due to the fact that he's not been a manager at the top level for this long. So I think he does, deserve 1 more year to be able to try a few things, like try and put things right. Try and, just try and play with the squad a little bit, play with a few different ideas, and try to get the best out of some of the other players that we have. Because Mata barely plays, Van der Beek barely plays. We've got Anthony Martial to come back. We're going to hopefully make a few signings, a centre-back, a defensive midfielder, and maybe a right winger. Those are the 3 things I think we need to become serious championship contenders. But you can't keep playing McTominay and Fred, and you can't keep not making subs. So I think Solskjaer deserves 1 more year, but I would like to see quite a lot of things change.